All right, go.
I'm rocking with Don Kilam.
Let's go. Peace and love. It's your boy Don Kilam. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I got a special program today for you with the private cast, and it's always a treat when trustees meet. Shout out to my boy Equity. But today we're gonna go over the being private trust versus public trust. A lot of people, it seems hard for them to comprehend that they're already operating as a trustee and a beneficiary. They're truly co-mingling when they're operating in the public, which is a big no-no. So I'm gonna go over what a public trust is and what the private trust is and the type of private trust that I actually utilize and help my private clients and my private students. But starting off, everybody utilizes a Social Security number. And that's what's different between private families and then public families. You got the public sector, then you got the private sector. When we're dealing with the public trust, the Social Security is a public trust. And you're operating as a trustee and beneficiary, which is co-mingling. When you look at the private sector of the economy, just Google this. What is the public sector? What is the private sector? The private sector of the economy is the part of the economy that the government does not control whatsoever. Then the public sector is the part of the economy that the government does control. So when we talk about the Constitution, that is a public trust. The Constitution is a public trust. I just want to throw that out there so everybody can start to kind of grasp what a trust is. It's considered an express trust, the Constitution. It was expressed in the public. And that's what gives us our precedents. So when you look at corporations also have bylaws, which would be their constitution. If you're looking at an LLC, like a limited liability company, they have something called the operating agreements. That's their form of a constitution. So when we look at the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, it says the government cannot infringe, no states can impair or upon the obligations or private contracts. Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution. So I want everybody to understand this is where we get our law from. This is where we get our private capacity from the United States Constitution. Article 1, Section 10. So when we're looking at the Social Security Trust, because that is a statutory law, is in the public sector, the part of the economy that the government does control. When you hear public defender, when you hear public housing, public assistance, this is government assistance, this is government attorneys, this is part of the public. So the government does control this. Also, when you're looking at this trust, the Social Security Trust, you're deemed a beneficiary because you're taking benefits from the trust, whether it be housing, whether it be a bank account, whether it be, you get equitable title with this. You don't get legal title. The government gets to have legal title because it's a public trust. The reason why it's public is because it was created with legislation. It was created by Congress, which is the public. In terms, you are the government, but they're acting as your trustee. And this is why it seems like they have control. All the trust is a private contract. That's why I need everybody to understand. All the trust is a private contract. But in the public, their terms and conditions usually have something called adhesion contracts. Look this word up, adhesion contracts. This means it's always in favor of the one who created the trust, because there's always applied terms that automatically put you under those. And acquiescence, which means silence, still means that the terms are in effect. So the Social Security Trust is considered a cestui que vie trust. A cestui que vie trust. I need everybody to understand this. They talk about the Cestui Que Vie Act of 1666 in England and even before that. But cestui que vie is the beneficiary of a trust or insurance policy. The beneficiary of a trust or insurance policy. That's what cestui que vie means. So you can only be the beneficiary of the Social Security Trust. You can only be a beneficiary of the Social Security Trust. So that's the public trust. In the private, the trust that I like to utilize first and foremost is the non-grantor, irrevocable, complex, discretionary spendthrift trust. It's a big word. So there's a non-grantor trust, then it's an irrevocable trust, it's a complex trust, it's discretionary trust, and it has a spendthrift clause in it. Being the non-grantor, that means there is no grantor on this trust, so you cannot co-mingle the funds. You can only be in one position. And you have somebody set this up, and then they no longer have their hands tied to this trust. That's what makes them a non-grantor. I want everybody to look this up, though. The Social Security is a trust fund. And the Social Security, this is coming directly from the Social Security Administration website. It says the Social Security Trust Fund is OASI for Retirement, Survivors, and DI for Disabilities, are federal accounts holding surplus and payroll taxes. This is insurance. The Social Security Trust is, I'm going to look this up, is insurance. Social Security is a form of social insurance financed by dedicated payroll taxes, FICA, that fund two trusts. That's the old age and survivors insurance and disability insurance. So I want everybody to think about this. If the Social Security is a trust and it's funding insurance, when you get insurance policies, you get to dictate how much you're paying in every month and then the terms and how long they're good for. So this trust is always benefiting the public. It's for the government, to be honest with you, to make sure if there's any mishap that the government can always recoup their funds. One thing that I like to teach my students and let them to look at, this is coming from thebalancemoney.com. Thebalancemoney.com. Who owns the U.S. national debt? The Social Security Trust Fund owns a significant portion of the United States national debt. But how does that work and what does it mean? In addition to agencies like the Social Security Trust Fund, various other entities, including foreign governments, domestic investors, and the Federal Reserve, hold substantial amounts of the debt. And when we're going down, it's over $30 trillion that's debt held by the public. So I need you to understand the Social Security Trust Fund is who's owed the most. The people who hold the Social Security Trust Fund, that's who holds the most of the public debt. That's who's owed the most. And when you're coming into using the birth certificate, that's what's placing you under this system. That's what's proving who your maker is. We live in a society that's contract-based and trust-based. So when you're born, they're giving you a birth certificate. This is proving who your maker is. You're not 6 pounds, 7 ounces no more. And that's one thing I need people to really understand. There's alternatives to the birth certificate, which are certificates of nativity, affidavits of live birth, family Bibles, and baby land deeds. So what's going on is every contract that you sign with the government is considered a private trust. Every contract. And then when you're using these entities to identify, you're identifying a business, because a natural person really doesn't need paperwork to be identified. You've been labeled some type of property, and this is why you need paperwork to be identified. So the birth certificate is one instrument that turns you into a sole proprietorship. Then you got the Social Security Trust, and then you got another vehicle, which would be your driver's license or your ID. These are different ways to put you in the public system, and these are contracts because you sign them. And the signature means sign in nature, but you sign these things, so these are public contracts. So what happens here is called amalgamation. This is what we call it in the private sector. Amalgamation, which is a combination of two or more companies that lead into a new entity. And something else that it could be called is an SPV, a special purpose vehicle. Because when you look it up, the United States is a federal corporation. And being a citizen is United States business. I'm going to give you those codes in a second. But a special purpose vehicle, also known as a special purpose entity, is a separate subsidiary formed by a parent company. So the parent company is the United States corporation. That's why corporations only have presidents. I'm going to say it again. Corporations have presidents. They have vice presidents, chief financial officers. This is what the United States is. It's a federal corporation under 28 U.S.C. 3002, subsection 15A. So the parent company, being the United States corporation, has created something called a special purpose vehicle, which is your name. Your name has been converted into a business. It's in all capitalized letters. They look at you as a business. Anytime you come and say you're the name, they're looking at you as a sole proprietorship, and now your labor is backed by your labor. You got to remember this. The debt is backed by your labor. It looks like the Social Security Trust, but it comes from FICA, which all comes from your labor. So when they say the national debt is backed by your labor, and necessity K. Trust. So by operating independently, special purpose vehicles secure obligations even in the event of a parent company's bankruptcy, which has happened. However, if improperly used, special purpose vehicles can obscure debt. So they're using it as a bankruptcy remote entity. That's really what's going on. Now, when we look at the, I want to bring up these special roles of the trust. Before I started learning trust, I learned how to limit my liability through LLCs. And there is something called the alter ego doctrine, so you have to be careful with placing assets in your, even if it's in your name, LLC, you got to make sure that you still have a holding company that is the single member of your name. So the first thing I do is teach people how to make their name an LLC. Make your first, middle, last name an LLC. Then when it comes to LLCs, there's no owners, all right? When you're using the Social Security number, you're automatically considered the owner of that business, which is a public business. All right. So it's considered a sole proprietorship. You will be liable if that business does any mishap in commerce. You will get in trouble, and you will be held liable for fees. You will be held liable for taxes. So what I'm teaching you is not only how to protect your assets, but to avoid tax liability. So it's not tax evasion, it's tax avoidance, and there's a big difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance. But first, make your name an LLC. The LLC can only be member managed or manager managed. So you want this one to be member managed, and you want your name that's an LLC, and this is considered my operating company. And then any other company that you're using in commerce is considered your operating company, and you want the single member to be your holding company. The holding company is going to be in one of the 5 charging order protection states, which is Nevada, Wyoming, Alaska, South Dakota, and Delaware. And then you can even set one up in New Mexico, because if you want to remain anonymous, that's a good state to remain anonymous in. Now, the holding company now is going to be manager managed, and then you can be the manager. So now you're at arm's length distance with your name and all the operating companies. When they ask for the beneficial owner, now this is when your trusts come into play. Now I broke down the non-grantor irrevocable complex discretionary spendthrift trust, but there's still a layer before we get to that. So the layer up from the holding company is going to be my ministry trust. I use a 508c1a ministry trust, which is an unincorporated association. So you can either use a ministry trust or an unincorporated association. Now, just how this is the beneficiary of my holding company, I also make sure that the 508c1a has a nonprofit family foundation in the play as well, because that's usually my beneficiary of the non-grantor trust. Now, the non-grantor trust is going to be the one who established that 508c1a. So here's certain roles. So I told you with the LLC, you're a member or you're a manager. Those are the 2 main roles. And then if you want to truly remain anonymous, you can use something called registered agents. I do utilize registered agents to establish my businesses, to stay under the radar, to get EINs with no Social Security number, because the Social Security number, even when you're establishing and getting the EIN, you're still under the public legislation. So there's still going to be a tax liability attached there. So starting off with the non-grantor irrevocable complex discretionary spendthrift trust, the first role you need to understand is the settler. The person who creates the trust and transfer assets into it. The settler determines the terms of the trust and has the authority to amend or revoke this trust. Then next, this is where you want to be. The trustee. The trustee is the individual or institution responsible for managing the trust's assets and distributing them according to the terms of the trust. The trustee has a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the beneficiaries. So the trust is there to protect the beneficiaries. That's truly what they're there for. Another term that a lot of people are not used to is a trust protector or a guardian. I break this all down in my book called Guardianship. It breaks down how to utilize this trust, and then volume 2 is the actual trust. It's a template of the actual trust and where to put everything. You can use an attorney if you want to, but I'm trying to make it in layman's terms so you don't have to use anybody. Usually when you're using attorneys, they're public attorneys. You got to understand there's a private practice and a public practice. When you're utilizing public attorneys, they're using codes and statutes to keep you coming back and using the court system. This trust is trying to bypass. I want you to bypass. We're not using codes and statutes. We're bypassing that. In the private sector, we do not have to use codes and statutes. Codes and statutes is for the public sector. So a trust protector or a guardian, this is an individual or entity. And I want everybody to understand this. Entities, whether it's an LLC, a corporation, or a trust, they can do everything a person can do except vote. So your settler can be a organization. Your trustee can be an organization. Your protector or guardian can be an organization. Just be mindful of who you're putting, who's in charge of those organizations. So a trust protector or a guardian is an individual or entity appointed to oversee the trust and ensure that the trustee is acting in accordance with the trust provisions. The trust protector may have the authority to make changes to the trust or replace the trustee if necessary. So that's a powerful key right there. The trust protector or the trust guardian can change the trustees. And in certain trusts, the beneficiaries can change the trustees as well. Another special term and position of this trust is going to be a proxy. A proxy is an individual authorized to act on behalf of the trust in certain matters. This can include signing documents or making decisions when the trustee is unavailable. So they have almost the same power as the trustee. And then you have your beneficiary. This is the person or entity entitled to receive benefits or distributions from the trust. Beneficiaries may receive income or principal from the trust depending on the terms set forth by the settler. Now, how I like to utilize this is, I like to call it the Warren Buffett way, is, let me just look this up so y'all can fully grasp this. Warren Buffett does state he won't leave his children his fortune, but instead direct 99% of his wealth to charitable trusts managed by them. So you want to hand down, because it's tax-free. And that's why I created the faith-based trust, okay? You can either, the beneficiary will be this faith-based trust or the private foundation that you created. Every private wealthy family has a private family foundation. And when you look up Warren Buffett, all you have to do is look up the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Peace and love, it's your boy Don Kilam, and welcome to Dream Keepers Radio, that private life podcast. You're here, tuned in with your boy, and this is brought to you by Follow the Yellow Brick Road by Don Kilam. Search the book on Amazon now. Go get the book and uncover the matrix and how the United States is operating in the financial marketplace. Much peace and love. And then look at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They used to be a foundation as well before they split up. But now I think it's just the Gates Foundation. So the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation, she has passed now, but that was Warren Buffett's wife. They had a foundation, and that's truly what takes care of the family, is private family foundations. So everything is a write-off. Everything is a deduction. Everything is tax-free. Everything is tax-exempt. And we're avoiding taxes. You have a little to zero to none. You know, sometimes there is a little tax obligation, but you'll have none. When you understand that your name is already a business, you'll get away from filing 1040s. When you're utilizing this trust correctly, everything that's coming into the trust is considered a passive income. And extraordinary dividends. So there's no capital gains tax, and there's no taxes on the passive income at all. All the tax liability gets passed on to the living beneficiaries. We're using organizations. Never the trustee. The trustee is always considered protected with hold harmless agreements, indemnity agreements, non-disclosure agreements. All this is in this trust. I was going to go through the trust, but I just want to make sure y'all get the understand the gist of the positions and how this trust actually operates. And then the public is totally something different. So you have to learn the private before you learn the public. The public will make a whole lot more sense. So understand that the Social Security number is a trust. Every time you're giving your signature, your sign of nature on documents in the public, you're giving up rights away, and you're putting your intellectual assets under the public trust. You can look these things up. Look up what a Schedule A is on the IRS side and the public, then look up what a Schedule A is and the private trust. This is where we list our assets. And the Schedule A, if you list them on the assets, now it becomes the IRS's. They deem it's theirs. So the Social Security number is a public trust because you're considered a beneficiary and a trustee of this. Legislation created, Congress created, so it's considered a public trust. Private trusts aren't established this way. A lot of people think it's not their fault. They didn't know, their mom's on the birth certificate. But regardless, this allows the government to make your name into a business. Now, in America, you can do business or whatever you like in America. So with your name as a business, you got the Social Security Trust. This is created into a public entity, and it's for a bankruptcy discharge mechanism that everybody speaks of. A lot of people speak on House Joint Resolution 192, which with the Social Security Act, which made debt public. All debt is prepaid. That's what it's for. All debt is prepaid because there's no gold, there's no silver, there's no national money in the public. A Federal Reserve note is a promissory note, as a promise to pay a later date when they may have gold in the system again, which I believe Texas is on the gold standard and Florida was the first one to do it. So they're back on the gold standard. In the private, that's what they utilize. They use gold, they use silver, they use things of assets, things that you can use as collateral, not just, hey, I'll pay you tomorrow, Everything is backed by your labor. You're living in a debt system. The public is a debt system. In the private, there is no, I'm going to pay you back. It's quid pro quo, something for something. The arguments remain that the government made a birth certificate and a Social Security trust in your name, and the government owes you money. I don't go from that route. I don't think the government owes anybody money. Like, we understand the public debt. You're utilizing the system. Being a beneficiary is being part of the debt system, But the government is an entity that's under bankruptcy and it's in debt, so they can't pay you even if they owe you because they're under bankruptcy. They're under bankruptcy, and that's what a lot of people are not understanding. So when you understand bankruptcy law, when you understand contract law, everything is contracts. Everything is contractual. And this is why I'm trying to teach you about trust, because you use contracts. It was a promissory note that was a contract that got you the house or got you the car. And you truly don't own it, because if you stop paying it, they come take it from you. You have equitable title versus legal title. In the public, they have contracts to be officials to operate the trust. Public officials are public servants for the public trust. And so you have to understand that they're the true trustees of the public trust that you're operating of. In the private, we put everybody on notice that we're a private family. Your county recorder's office, your governor, your attorney. Like, if y'all tap into my school, I'll show y'all exactly how to do status correction and then let people know, hey, we're operating from a trust, private trust. You make your name is the intellectual property in this system when you think about it. And that's what people are really failing to realize. I'm showing everybody how to protect their name. Now, I don't want to throw everybody for a loop. The first time I was ever protecting my name was I've always studied like record label contracts, and I see how they're giving away their rights. So the record label is kind of like a government. When you think about the government, they keep records of you. So record companies also keep records of you, and they turn you into a doing business as, so to speak, DBAs, doing business as. So now you got your artist name, they'll use your government name, also known as, and then they'll copyright it, they'll trademark it, whatever, and now they own your essence, they own your intellectual property. So that's kind of what the government does to you when they throw you in jail. These are the benefits of the trust, of the public trust: jail time, fines, fees. So this is why it's important to understand what informed families know. I'm going to go over a little bit of the non-grantor irrevocable complex discretionary trust. It's considered, I already said this, but everything that you're utilizing, you can use all your LLCs. You can make this, you can do performance agreements. There's a lot of different contracts you can do. Independent contracts, or you can just put your LLCs in the Schedule A and make the trust own the LLC. And now all the money can go straight to the trust, and it's considered passive income, and it's not going to be taxed. You can create unlimited bank accounts with this trust. And then there's only one tax return. So if you got all your business, say you got 10 businesses, you put it in this trust, there's only one tax return. It's all considered passive income. You have the trust file the taxes on it. The beneficial spendthrift clause in the trust is what makes capital gains taxes eliminated. All income is considered passive income and is non-taxable. And it's 100% lawsuit-proof asset protection because of, you can look this up at IRS code 643B. So the non-grantor irrevocable complex discretionary spendthrift trust is compliant with IRS code 643B. And I'm going to read a little bit about this. So IRS code 643B, extraordinary dividend. This is the part that you need to understand. For purposes of this subpart and subparts B, C, and D, the term income, when not preceded by the words taxable, distributable net, undistributed net, or gross, means the amount of income of the estate or trust for the taxable year determined. Under the terms of the governing instrument and applicable local law, items of gross income constitute extraordinary dividends or taxable stock dividends, which the fiduciary, acting in good faith, determines to be applicable to corpus under the terms of the governing instrument and applicable local law shall not be considered income. It's considered an extraordinary dividend. Now, the capital gains tax exclusion is on subsection 3. Gains from the sale or exchange of capital assets shall be excluded to the extent that such gains are allocated to corpus and are not paid, credited, or required to be distributed to any beneficiary during the taxable year, or paid permanently set aside or to be used for the purpose specified in section 642C. So long as it goes to the trust, the capital gains tax, there's none, and it's considered an extraordinary dividend. There should be some type of profit sharing agreements included in the trust as well to be compliant with 643B. But that's part of it has a business trust in it. It has a charitable trust in it. It's a non-grantor trust. And the simple trust is what gets you taxable with your beneficiaries. I'm not going to get deep on that because I know a lot of people are not understanding, even comprehend a lot of the trust law. But all trusts are private contracts. That's why I need everybody to understand. When it comes to your name being in all capitalized letters as a person, it's not a conspiracy. It's true. They turn you into a business. You understand that's only how that this matrix system, this corporate system, this public system can even view you as a United States citizen. So as a national, we move a little bit differently. Nationals being private, becoming a private American. You can just look these things up. There's different terms for these, and that's what Donald Trump says, make America great again. He's talking about becoming an American. Learn how to be an American versus a U.S. citizen. United States citizen means United States business. You Google that. It's going to pop up. It's going to show you the real federal law. Private families learn how to become private. So look at the Amish. The Amish are part of the private sector. They're outside the scopes of being taxed. They're outside the scopes of having to get identification. Because a lot of people don't know. I see Amish people on the planes all the time. But their families sit down with the IRS. The IRS are really the big dogs when it comes to any of these systems. It might look like it's this corporation or that corporation, because I need you to understand, if everybody's getting paid, it's a business. It's a corporation. Even some of these businesses that are in the government, they're nonprofits and then they're for-profit. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's a business that creates food stamps. It's a business you're going to get food stamps. It's a business that's applying to get those grants to give the people food stamps, and that are putting people on child support. So I want you to comprehend that. So the private always creates the public. So it's private families that are creating these entities. It's private people, private citizens, private families. The government does do funny business with your name, but you're signing over these rights. So they're not doing nothing that they're not allowed to without your permission. You must have a private trust. You must have a private business, private family business. You must know the difference between private, and you must know the difference between public. As a free natural person, you can change your jurisdiction at any time. You can change who you want to be at any time. You can change your nationality at any time. And that's another key, is nationality. Understanding that you do have a right to a nationality. Under the corporate system, they only use black on white. They make you black or they make you white, and they control both of these if you have a Social Security number. It's a little bit different if you're white without a Social Security number, but as soon as you get the Social Security number, you're controlled in this system. You're no longer free. You're no longer a free white person. You must know that the game, everyone has a system. It is a game, and everyone in the system, in the public system, they have the right to switch the system. They have the right to rescind. There's no forced labor. There's nothing forced that they can do. They can't force you to use the Social Security number. And just think about this when it comes to taxes. Don't corporations always pay less than employees when it comes to taxes? When you're using the Social Security number, it's truly used for you to be an employee and to keep you taxed at when you're given the Social Security number by default. Usually 9 times out of 10 when you're coming into the system. And this is the worst position to be in when it comes to being in business. When you understand being an entrepreneur, when you're starting to comprehend taxes, you're going to see that, hey, I need to start moving into business, because at very least, you'll be taxed at a lower bracket than you would as an individual. So I want you to look this up. The code is 15 USC 4724 E1. 15 USC 4724 E1. United States citizen means United States business means United States citizen. 15 USC 4724 E1. The term United States business means a United States citizen. And then when you go to 28 USC 3002, subsection 15A, you'll start to see that the United States is a federal corporation. All debt is fiction. This is all fiction. Everything is fiction based. When you get a Social Security number, that's a fictional entity that they're giving you. When they give you a birth certificate, that's a fictional entity that they're placing upon you. Same way with the ID. I don't identify as none of those. I do credential cards. I'm not going to get deep with all that because that's the private life. That's what y'all need to start tapping in. Y'all need to tap into the school. And make sure y'all just watch all the videos that we've been dropping all this game to help make this make sense for everybody. So the private always creates the public. If you didn't get anything from me today, that's what I need you to understand. The private creates the public. Private families created the United States government. In order to have control of what's going on in your life, you have to learn how to maneuver in the private. You have the right to privacy in America, and everything that they're doing here is kind of hard. It's giving up your rights and giving up your privacy, whether it be your cell phone, whether it be you giving them your address, your phone number just to sign up for rewards or points in the store. These are all forms of giving away your privacy. You're swiping your debit card. They're tracking you with your Social Security number. So I'm teaching people how to operate with an EIN that's not attached to the social. Put everything under a family trust or a family foundation, and now we can move in a tax-exempt manner and have a less of a tax avoidance, because that's all it's about. Uninformed families do not know this. Informed families are all about making sure they have a lesser tax obligation and remaining private. So I broke down how the special positions of this trust that I utilize versus you just being a beneficiary under the Cestui Que Vie, the Cestui Que Vie trust. The Social Security number is the Cestui Que Vie trust. That's why I need y'all to study Cestui Que Vie trust, Cestui Que Vie Act, and how it's affecting your life. Your name is the business, so learn how to maneuver with the limited liability. Ownership means liability, and liability means obligation. So learn how to own nothing, control everything, learn how to manage things, learn how to be an administrator, and operate from the private side. With that, I'm out. It's your boy, Don Kilam. Make sure y'all tap in and tune in.
Flavor Flav in the building. Yo, Don Kilam, keep doing your thing, G. Hey, yo, check 1, 2. This is Flavor Flav in the building, you know what I'm saying? Word up. Hey, yo, make sure y'all check out the song bars, you know what I'm saying? Word up by my man Don Kilam. You heard? A Fresco King. Yeah, boy. You know what time it is. Make sure y'all check out the bars by my boy. Alright? Flavor Flav in the building. Yo, Don Kilam, keep doing your thing, G.